welcome to episode 7 of the Darts World Weekly podcast. I'm Harry Masterson.
And I'm AJ Ernston-Toff. And how are we doing this week?
Very good, AJ. Obviously, got uni assessments due in the next week or so my mind has been pretty much focused on that. How have you been?
Yeah, it just seems getting busier and busier, and the darts news gets busier and busier as well. We've got an action-packed show for you this week.
Absolutely, so many stories coming out of the world of darts over the weekend.
And so, if there's so much news, let's start with the news. And there's been a heck of a lot of action over the past week since the last episode, but more recent news that's come out recently is obviously the suspension of Adam Smith-Neale from DRA regulation events. Obviously, there was an incident at a local event in Nuneaton. And yes, I mean, from my point of view, obviously the video evidence isn't fantastic to see from a professional player or a player in the professional system. And, the reaction by the DRA was quick. And I think, they've made the right call for now. But obviously, at recording, we just need to see where it goes from there.
Absolutely. And obviously what that means is the tour card that he holds will be given to the first or second player in the Challenge Tour, as it usually does in previous years. Obviously, I think it's the rest of the year that he's out for?
There's no time frame at this moment in time, but what happens is when players do pull out of Pro Tour events or any events that they're eligible for, what they do then is go from the Challenge Tour Order of Merit and they fill the spaces from there. So he's not lost his tour card. He's suspended from playing in further events at this moment in time. But obviously, as that progresses, we will give you updates as soon as we find out. So moving on from that, we have the PDC Premier League that was in, where was it last week?
Brighton
last week. And it is in Nottingham this week, but more on that later. But yes, what a day of events in Brighton for the Premier League. Luke Humphries getting the win at last.
Yeah, I think it was well overdue for Luke Humphries. I think the form that he produced, he was like the player in the tournament that had produced the highest tournament average. So you could tell, I think all the pundits were saying it as well, that the win was due, and he played really well on night 6.
Yeah, I mean, the 3 averages above 100, the semi-final being his biggest average of 113, which is, again, as we've said, these averages are going to go up and up, and we're going to be seeing these 110 plus averages on the regular. And it's proving the point here with Luke Humphries throwing some astonishing stuff in all of the games, never mind just that particular game. And but yeah, it's, as we said, looking at, don't want to dwell too much on the averages, but again, players above 95 more often than not, only 2 players being below it. It's the quality of this Premier League is really shining, and at this moment, you can safe to say it's not been a bad week.
No, and I think one thing that Luke Humphries has done as well for the Premier League is he's made the race for the top spot a lot more interesting. There's just 3 points now with Van Gerwen going out in the opening round in the last 2 weeks. It's allowed all the players behind, like your Luke Littlers, your Rob Crosses and your Luke Humphries, to catch up with him. And I think there's just 3 points now between Humphries and Van Gerwen going into Nottingham this week. So interesting, yeah. And the drama's there. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, this Premier League, as I said, it's becoming really, really, really good in terms of not just the averages, but you're getting all them highlights that you would expect with these players playing against each other. High checkouts, 39 180s for the Knights overall, which is keeping on par with what they've been doing over the previous weeks. And as we said, Nottingham is next, and a famous part of the world where the first World Championships was held. Way back when, and even before when I was a lad. I mean, we're going way back, but no, it's going to be a good night of darts, hopefully. But as I said, we'll get onto that later. So
absolutely,
that was the Premier League that was, and everyone had a quick turnaround because we was in Belgium for the PDC Belgium Open over the weekend as well, and weekend of darts and culminating in an astonishing final.
Exactly, Luke Littler again, just showing that he's just ridiculous. I think the fact that he's played on his Pro Tour debut, he's played on his Euro Tour debut, and his World Series, in his first World Series competition as well, he's thrown 9 darters in all 3. And I don't get it. How on earth is the nerves not showing one bit in these competitions? At the end of the day, and it was in a final as well. It was not even in like the early rounds of the competition. He just saved it for the final, and again, he's just closing in on the world match play now. This more and more ranking money that he's adding in is just going to benefit him later down the line.
Yeah, he's right in the middle of that group of the order of merit on the Players Tour. So he's pretty much a shoe-in for a place in the world match play, which is got to be the hottest ticket in town. Blackpool Winter Gardens. I've been there to watch the darts, and it is one of the best venues in darts. And I know it's Northwest, and there might be some bias, but I don't care. It is absolutely fantastic. I watched Barney versus Anderson there one year, and it was electric. And I think putting Luke Littler, you've got that Northwest emphasis, and it's going to be chock-a-block, and it's going to be a fantastic event, that World Match Play. But it's still some time to go for that.
Yeah, there's still plenty more Euro Tours to come. The Pro Tours are obviously again next week as well, and we've got the conclusion of the Premier League. And I think there's a small matter of a World Cup of Darts as well to get out of the way before we even think about the match play.
Now, I know the rules. The rules is the top 2 of each country, but would you rather put Luke Littler in that situation?
Yes, I'd play Luke Humphries and Luke Littler for England this year. I think them two together would be a very dangerous pairing, and I think all the other nations will look at that and think we've got our work cut out here. No, they do look, in terms of the way they play the game, they're very fast paced. I think the doubles format would suit them very well. And I mean, we saw at the World Championship final that the blows that they were literally giving each other in terms of the scoring and the finishing they were producing. So I think it would complement them very well. But there are other players that are in there as well. Michael Smith can't be overlooked, as well as Rob Cross. I think Rob Cross is looking fantastic at the minute. The 109 average in the Premier League, and he reached the final of the Belgian Darts Open this weekend.
Yes, and I don't know if you watched on Saturday night, but Millie Bobby Brown's favourite dart player getting the win on Sunday. So congratulations to Luke. But just want to put a little nod to Jermaine Watamima. I've known him for many years. We played pairs together in the Swiss Open about, I'm going to say 12 years ago, there or thereabouts. And he's always been a rapid player, and he's always been a quick player. But now getting into the into the quarterfinals of the Belgium Open, and I think he's starting to make some headway into these European Tour events now.
Absolutely, he beat I think he beat Joe Cullen in one of the rounds, and Joe Cullen was in fantastic form. Exactly, 2 fantastic players there. I think both of them are both in the top 16 in the world?
Yes.
And Joe Cullen in one of his previous rounds as well. I think he had 2 170 finishes in one match. So it's not like he wasn't in any form himself going into that game. But fair play to Jermaine. He did what he needed to do on the day, and a first Euro Tour quarter final of the year for him.
Yeah, and as we said, a fantastic weekend of darts with a few scuffles as probably with Littler and Pachescu. It was an interesting end to the match, but I think it was just more a case of Luke Littler's board management might not be someone else's board management.
Yeah, and I think with Pietrezco, I don't think there was anything in terms of what Luke Littler was doing was anything arrogant, because I think it's how he plays. Like we saw in the UK Open that he did a 20 bull, and James Wade, we saw the face that he pulled. Yes. But I mean, I think that's just the sort of signs that all the players need to be looking at in terms of this is what this kid does. He does this all the time. Like it wasn't just because he was playing Pietrezco. He'd do that against Van Gerwen.
Yes, and I think, just a case of learn and move on.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that was the PDC news. Now we move over to the WDF. And a fantastic weekend at the Isle of Man, one of my favourite festivals of darts, the Isle of Man. And got to say, a fantastic weekend for all involved, really.
Absolutely. Many Bowgreaves defending her title this weekend. I think Jim McEwen was also in the winner's circle, as well as Carl Wilkinson. I think Carl Wilkinson, he had a very good year on the ADC circuit last year. So he's made another step in terms of his progression on the WDF. And again, looking like a world championship spot at the end of the year if he keeps it going.
Yes, Carl Wilkinson, a Yorkshire player, but beating former WDF world champion Neil Duff in the final, close contest. But you see when you're playing in a lot of events across the board, not just WDF, not just ADC, but combining all them. Plus, he's in the county fold, as we said. He's playing a lot of darts, and now all that match practice or match experience is paying dividends.
Absolutely. These events are, I think, in my opinion, one of the perfect ways in terms of just getting your practice in as much as possible, because the games are just hitting you thick and fast. Every single game is there. The further you get, the more you play. And again, it will do him the world of good in terms of. So is he playing county this year? Is he playing for England this year?
I don't know about England, but he's definitely in the Yorkshire squad, definitely.
Yeah, so Yorkshire, he will, again, for the practice in terms of an individual sense, he's doing really well in terms of looking for a place at the World Championships. But in terms of his county form, I'm sure Yorkshire will be very delighted with how he did at the weekend.
Definitely, most definitely. And that gets us moving on to the Modus Super Series last week. And again, we keep saying it, and it's starting to sound cliche, but it's just been an absolutely amazing weekend of darts in every code that you can think of. And, the standard is going higher and higher and higher as we go.
We know with the Modus Super Series, the amount of competition you have to go through to get onto it. And I think when you have to play that competitive sort of darts to get into it, you're going to obviously want to perform when you're actually there as well. And another quality week, it was Conor Heenahan that won this week. And we know how he does on the Modus competitions. He threw a 9-darter on the online live league. So he knows how to handle these situations in Portsmouth.
Yeah, he's well experienced now in this format, and been there multiple weeks and been in there in the Champions events. But they're getting the win this week, with some stellar performances.
Absolutely, and obviously we're on to this week now, and I think John Michael is currently ahead. There's plenty of other players as well that are competing with him. I think it's only Michael Huntley that's a bit cut adrift at the minute, but with the Super Series, you can just go into Group C and you've still got your second chance there.
Yes, and with Thursday, you've got the inclusion of the silencer Jeff Smith this week, which is a very good friend of mine, and I wish him all the best. No, we don't try and be biased, but I think with this, I've got to pay special attention.
Absolutely, I think it also with the Modus competitions, if you do lose your tour card at the start of the year, I think I've seen so many former tour card holders already playing it this year, like John Michael, who's currently leading it, is top. You mentioned Jeff Smith there as well. And I've seen Ted Everts play. I've seen Connor Scott as well. All of these players just getting the opportunities. John Henderson had it last year. Yeah. And it just, like I said with the WDF, you just get your match practice in. And this is even more beneficial to you because you're also playing on a live stream. So you're also getting, it's sort of televised. So you can go back, look at how you performed, and it's just an experience. And I think players do benefit off it.
Absolutely. And, it's instead of being like thrown into the wild as it was back in the day when there wasn't a lot of opportunities for players who lost their tour cards. Now it's, opportunities are plenty.
It's not the end of the world if you lose your tour cards.
No, it could be the start of a new one, that, as they say. But that's the news for now. But we've got to think ahead because it is the PDC Premier League Predictor League. So, as we said earlier in the news section, the PDC bandwagon rolled up in Brighton this week. And as we said, with Luke Humphries getting the nod, with I've made a special note here with an average of 106 for the evening, which is over the 3 games, which is just insane. But going through very quickly the results of the quarterfinals, Luke Humphries won 6-2. So we both got the correct outcome, but not the correct score. And the same with Rob Cross beating Michael Van Gerwen 6-2. So we both got 2 points. On Nathan Aspinall versus Luke Littler, I went with Luke Littler, you went with Nathan, so I gained 2 points on you there, with Luke Littler winning. And then finally, Peter Wright versus Michael Smith. Again, one of them 50-50 games that we mentioned, but it went the way of Michael Smith, and that gave you them 2 points back. So we were both dead set level with 6 points each. So it just increases the numbers, but the gap remains the same. 5 points difference between me and you. 27 for Harry and 32 for myself. Which then moves us on to Nottingham at the Motorpoint Arena. And again, we've got some tasty games away for us this week. Kicking off with Peter Wright versus Gerwin Price. You've got a bit of a flip-flop of form at the moment with both players. But we'll leave this one to you first, Harry. Peter Wright, Gerwin Price, who have you got and why?
This is a very important match. I think these are the 2 bottom players currently in the Premier League. So I think the win for both is as important. And I think I'm going to go with Gerwin Price to win this. He reached the semi-finals on the Belgian Darts Open at the weekend, so played himself into form. He beat Gary Anderson as well, and Gary Anderson, we all know, has done a fantastic year, won a Pro Tour, and he also lost a final, but averaged, I think, 7 points more despite his getting the first tournament. So he's in very good form. Peter Wright, we all know I feel like he's been very unlucky in the Premier League. He had an average of 103 against Luke Littler and still lost. But I'm going to go with Price, and I'm going to go with him to win 6-4.
Interesting, because I've gone for the same score, but the opposite way round. I think, as you say, Peter Wright is just due a run. Has been painfully unlucky. He has been swapping his darts, but he's only swapping between 2, I think, where he's got one with, like as we said, the Van Gerwen-esque style, and we've got the ones with the more tapered nose. But I think that the form is definitely there, and I think just the way momentum is going, I just feel that Peter Wright in the Premier League is due a run. Maybe to the final and maybe beyond. We don't know. But for this match particular, I'm going 6-4 Peter Wright. Leads us up into the next game, a battle of former world champions. Most recently, you've got Luke Humphries versus Michael Smith. So my turn now, and I've got to say, the way Luke Humphries threw last week, and I mean, he was unlucky in Belgium, but I feel his form is just far superior at this moment in time. If Michael Smith proves me wrong, I've got a hat in a bag that I can eat, and I've got no problems doing that because the form of all the players are really good. But I just think Luke Humphries will take it 6-5. I think it'll just be with throw, essentially.
It's a repeat of last week's final. I think Smith got to the final last week. Obviously, Humphries won, and I'm also going to go with Humphries to win. I think he's in the form of his life. He's in the form of his life at the minute. I think, as you said, he averaged 106 in his 3 matches last week. It was 113, 109, and 105. So ridiculous. And I'm going to go with I'm going to go with Humphreys, and I feel like he wins 6-3 a lot in this Premier League campaign, and I'm going to go with him to win by that scoreline this week because he beat Van Gerwen 6-3 to end his winning streak in Exeter, and he's had a few more wins by that scoreline in the Premier League over the first 5 weeks. So yeah, Humphreys for 6-3.
Okay, excellent. So that takes us on to I say another tasty clash. Every game is a tasty clash, but a really tasty clash. This is your main course. This one. This is a MVG versus Luke Littler. You've got MVG probably licking his wounds from Belgium, and the winner of the Belgium event, Luke Littler. So, who have you got and why?
I'm going to go with Luke Littler. I think Luke Littler, on the back of the Belgian Darts Open, I think his confidence is just going to be up there right now. So, and Van Gerwen at the minute is not in the best of form. He lost early at the UK Open. He lost early this weekend at the Belgium Open, and quarterfinal defeats in his last 2 nights, in the Premier League. I do feel Van Gerwen will have that week where he will take his anger out on someone and get back onto winning ways. But I don't feel like it's going to be Littler this week. I think he's in fantastic form at the minute. The numbers he's producing is ridiculous, and I'm going to go with him to win 6-4.
Well, I've gone for the same winner. I think MBB's favourite dart player is beating MVG, and I think it's going to be 6-3 to Luke Littler, just to make sure everything rhymes. So MBB's favourite player beats MVG 6-3. Easy for me to say. Which then takes us on to the last game of the quarterfinal, Rob Cross versus Nathan Aspinall. My turn this week. And I think the form of Rob Cross is, I want to say he's playing really well. Nathan Aspinall's had some really good runs as well. But similar to Luke Humphreys, Michael Smith, I just think it's going to go on darts. And I think, Rob Cross takes it 6-5.
I agree with you on this one completely. I think I'm going with the exact same winner and the exact same score. And I think Aspinall is one of them players that he digs in games, and he's the one player that I would think would cause a 6-5 result in any game in this Premier League just because of the character that he shows when he's on the hockey. And obviously we might be wrong. Nathan Aspinall could win the throw on the night, so he could win the game 6-5. It's, in my opinion, a bit of a toss of a coin, but based on form and based how Rob Cross is playing at the minute, I'm going to edge Voltage.
Right, so that just leaves us with this week's weekly winner. Looking back, I think we've all been dead set wrong apart from me once, that's it. But as we say, this shows the quality of the Premier League and how hard it is, because the players have got to navigate 3 extremely tough matches every week. And against different players every week, thereabouts. But for this week, I think it's your turn to pick first, the weekly winner. So who have you got this time?
I'm going with Luke Humphreys. I'm going with Luke Humphreys to go back to back because I think at the minute, the form that he's showing, and as you said, the averages he produced last week, and the way he improved on his doubling as well last week, which was a huge factor in terms of what the averages were showing in the end. I think his first 2 games, he got a 60% checkout rate. And I think if you ask any dart player, I think a 40% checkout rate would do them. And at the minute, the form is just showing. And I know he lost early against Ryan Searle at the Belgian Darts Open, but I think that was a case that Ryan Searle missed just 2 darts at double in the game. So didn't even afford him a chance. And I am going to go with Luke Humphreys to win night 7. I just think that the motive as well to get close to Van Gerwen in the table as well will play a factor. And I think Luke Littler will also have the same. I think it'll be them 2 in the final, in my opinion. And I'm going to edge Humphreys to win in the final.
Well, so you've gone with one Luke, and I'm going with the other. I think Luke Littler is due one. He's playing some amazing stuff at the moment. I mean, the win in Belgium will just pump the ego up even more. He'll be wanting this one, and he'll be biting at the bit. And I think as we, the games might be a bit close in terms of the semi-final and final, but I think everyone's getting it at the moment, and I think Luke Littler's getting a nod on this.
I had a feeling you'd go with Luke Littler this week. Sorry. I did. You went with him last week as well, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's been a few semi-finals for him, but I think he's as I said, he's now won a European Tour event. I think he's due a Premier League event now.
He'll win one. I'm sure it's going to happen sooner rather than later. At the minute, his campaign this year has reminded me of Nathan Aspinall's campaign last year. He's not winning anything at the minute, but he's earning points near enough. He's earning 2 at least every single week, which is why he's so high in the league. And if he keeps playing this way, the night wins will come eventually. And eventually, I think in terms of his league position as well, the gap will start to form from the players that are not winning as much.
Well, I mean, you can look at Michael van Gerwen. I mean, he had 3 wins on the spin, and it was all about him. And then in just 2 short weeks, he's lost in the first round twice. And everyone's now doubting him. But it's not a case of doubting him. It's just looking at the form of the players over the past couple of weeks. The form has risen dramatically. In part of the Littler effect from January, but I think in part MVG put a line in the sand, and he went, right, this is where you've got to get up to, and the players are responding naturally, and I think now he's coming a bit unstuck.
MVG's run in the Premier League at the minute is if he wins his quarter final, he wins the whole night. I think he lost in the quarter final on the opening night, and he's lost in the opening quarterfinals in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So if he does beat Littler, then he's probably going to win the night.
To coin a phrase, it's hit or bust. But that was the Premier League Predictor League, and we are going on to events. So that was the news and the Premier League Predictions League. But let's have a look into the future and see what events are happening this weekend. On Saturday, you've got the Grand Slam of Darts at Riley's in Cholton, Greater Manchester. That is run by Fatal Darts, and that is entry via the Darts Atlas system, and there is ADC points available as well. Also, you have the Ladies Open at the Greetland Social Club, and that is run by the Halifax Darts Federation, and entry also on dartsatlas.com, and that has got women's ADC points available. On the Sunday in Kidderminster, it is the first of the Red Dragon Doubles Cup qualifiers. There's events all over the country, 32 events to be exact, but this one is at the Brew Sports Bar in Kidderminster, and again, entries is on Darts Atlas. Next weekend, 21st to the 25th of March, at the Golden Palm Resort, it is the Lincolnshire Family Darts Festival. If you go onto Darts Events for You on Facebook, all the details are on there, and they are really good weekends. It's not just one event, there's multiple events throughout each of the days, and there's nights entertainment as well at the site. And then finally, we've got the HNCF Open, which is run by myself at the Higher Earlham Social Club in Greater Manchester. And pleased to announce we are having a separate Women's Open on the day. So get your entries in for both events if you want to take part in both events. But ladies, come on down and have a go.
Sounds a fantastic weekend, AJ. Obviously, guys, get your entries in, and I think that sounds like a fantastic tournament. And going back onto the other competitions you mentioned, the race now for the Windmill Championship tours are starting to heat up. And as we mentioned, I think there's only 3 spots now available in one of the events. I think all the other 3 are sold out now.
Yes, it's a fantastic turnout for the ADC Windmill Tour events, as we probably predicted. I played in the first iteration of the whole tour, and then I played in a few events last year. But this year they've upped the stakes and they've upped the ante, and it's looking like it's going to be 4 tremendous weekends: 2 in Middlesbrough, 2 in Aylesbury. And as I said, with these events weekends, with, ran in the Northwest and ran all over the country with the Darts Atlas events. Got plenty of chances to get your eye in for these biggies, as we call them. And, it's going to be really, really good couple of weekends of darts ahead.
Changing format definitely helps as well. I think more players now will probably look at the fact that it's cash for the winner now instead of the modus spot. And don't get me wrong, I thought the modus spot was a very good opportunity for the players that did win, but I feel like you get your cash straight away. And there's also the finals day in Portsmouth, but I think it's in like November. I think they're doing it similar to what the ladies did last year. They had a 8-player tournament which Dieter Hedman won, and I think this year it's going to be both the women's and the men's on. I don't know if it's on the same day or if it's on separate days, but it sounds very, very promising.
Yes, so with a thoroughly packed weekend of darts ahead, wherever you're playing your darts this weekend, we wish you the very best of luck.
Absolutely.
And with that, that is game, shot, and match for this episode. I'm AJ Ermston Toft.
And I'm Harry Masterson.
And we will see you in the next round.
Bye, guys.